Oh, right. Welcome back to Launched and Growing. You're halfway through. So tonight's your halfway through point. And I will be your facilitator this evening. My name's Emily Conroy. I use she, her pronouns, and I am Women Ventures Chief Client Experience and Programs Officer. And I'm also a business owner. I opened my first business in 2014 called Love and Cupcakes. And I opened my second business 2 years later called Conroy Consulting Group. The businesses are very opposite of each other. I have a background in marketing and psychology. I became a news reporter um, out of college and during college, and it's not an industry I wanted to stay in, but I grew up on a dairy farm, and I knew that I didn't want to be a farmer, but that's business ownership. And so I watched my grandfather and my father um, open and run these businesses, and I didn't really know that there was anything else because that's just what I saw as a kid. And so I was a first generation college student, and I didn't really necessarily think I would go into business because I think the businesses I saw, I just were like, oh, they're farmers, and I don't want to be a farmer. I didn't think about all of the business principles I was learning by growing up the way I did. And so once I kind of was in my first full-time job, I started doing kind of side projects, side hustles as we call them today. But I would use my journalism skills to do photographs or write copy for people or do kind of marketing. And as I got more and more into that, it snowballed into a full-time job. And that's when I started my LLCs and became self-employed. Um, and so I was hosting events, doing video photography work with my Love and Cupcakes business and creative events. And then with my consulting business, I was helping small businesses and nonprofits and government agencies do strategic planning, marketing planning, fundraising, grant writing, just strategic planning, development work. A lot of the execution that we're going to talk about tonight is my area of expertise. And so, over the last 2 decades, I have had the opportunity to work all across the Midwest, in California, in South Carolina, and I spent 6 years working with women entrepreneurs in Tanzania, Africa. Um, while doing all of those things, I also became a mom and I'm originally from Minnesota. And so, kind of working internationally wasn't as realistic anymore. And so, my 6-year-old and I are now here in the Twin Cities. He is home, and I'm a single parent. And so, if you hear noises or see my door come open, it is probably just him coming to greet us tonight. And so, that's just a brief introduction about me tonight. And I just share this so one, you know who is facilitating the session tonight, why I'm here. And really within the next 2 hours, I am your coach, your mentor, your cheerleader, your consultant. We're a small group, and so please utilize your time tonight to ask the questions you have about your business. And I can reach into, my areas of expertise to ask the right questions and get you thinking or give you some examples of businesses that I have coached in the past, and how some of that might apply to your businesses. And nothing's off limits. If I don't know the answer to the question or I haven't had time to kind of research that specific area, I'll be transparent with you, but help you kind of find maybe who would know that answer or how I can assist you further. But I'm excited to dive in. We're talking about execution tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screens. I have read a little bit about your businesses. I've looked at your live plan accounts, and my team, Lexi, Ali, Andra, have shared some information with me. But as I start to move to sharing my screen, I would love for you, because I think I can read all these things, but I'd love to hear directly from you, just a little bit about who you are. Tell me about your business. If you can kind of give it to me like in an elevator speech or talk to me as if I were to be a potential customer of yours. Um, and then when you think about execution, tonight we're going to talk about marketing, pricing your products and services, the operations plan, the sales plan. Maybe when you think about those things, what's the thing that either you're most excited to learn about and dive into tonight, or the thing you're like, this is a pain in the butt. I hate talking about this. I'm scared of this topic. Just kind of share with me like what's going on in your mind and your thought process. And so, Christina, you're on camera. Would you mind going first and just answering those questions and introducing yourself to me?
Yeah, so I'm Tina, with Tina's Airbrush and Beauty. I have a beauty and entertainment business that focuses on airbrushing. Um, I've been airbrushing for 20 years, well, probably for more than 20 years now. Um, so I also teach it and what for about marketing, I feel like I'm faking it until I make it. Kind of like I sort of understand it. I sort of understand when like my posts are doing well. I sort of understand that my, for example, my Instagram is doing all right because a lot of my audience is engaging with my content, like a large percentage versus like 10%. Um, and that's good, even though I don't have like a ton of followers. But uh I don't have any paid marketing. So, um, I'd kind of like to learn about that and like if it's worth it, how like what's the best way to go about that? Or should I stick to word of mouth and social media since that seems to be the biggest thing out there right now?
Thanks for sharing that, Tina. And I think one thing that you said that's really important is engagement is more important in kind of like your marketing and your brand strategy than quantity, right? So if you have lower followers, but they're all engaged, that's so much better than having high followers and like no engagement. And I think some of the stuff we'll talk about today is, of course, the goal in sales and marketing is to have conversions. So it's one thing to have followers, but we're business owners. We need to get paid. We need customers, right? So how do we engage those who are listening and watching us to engage in making a transaction and paying
Yeah.
us,
And
right?
I need that.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Ashley, welcome. My name's Emily. I'm going to be the facilitator tonight. And so before I jump into some of the content, I said I've had the opportunity to read about you, your businesses, and look in your live plans, but I'd love to just hear directly from you all. So introduce yourself, tell me a little bit about your business, and then our topic tonight is kind of the execution, the planning. So it's going to be around marketing, sales, pricing, operations. And so when I talk about those things, is there anything that excites you or you're like, oh, I don't like this area, I'm confused about this area?
So I'm Ashley. I've been in business now for 8 years. I do have a brow studio. So I am a beauty business and I do anything and everything related to eyebrows. Eyebrow threading, waxing, tinting, laminations, and cosmetic tattooing. So that's what I do. I also teach brow courses as well. When it comes to marketing, I feel pretty confident in it. Sometimes I go through like I'm on a roll, like posting and making like content, and then I kind of have like I go blank, and I'm all like, oh, what else do I post? Or like if I'm specifically trying to target like or trying to sell my course or sell my classes or my private one-on-one trainings, I kind of get stuck like, what kind of stuff should I be posting in order to push that, versus like people booking appointments. Like right now I'm trying to go more for like the thing that's going to bring in the most money with like the least amount of work, because I
Mm-hmm.
already have like, the courses, I already have the material and I can keep reteaching it because it's already there. I already have the manual. I already know what's in the kit. Super easy, and it's working smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I get stuck. I'm like, dang, how do I promote this? Or like, the content's there. It's like, how do I word it, or how do I make it sound good or appealing, or how do I like capture somebody? And
Yeah.
I don't have an issue using like social media. Social media has got me pretty far. I've grown my clientele like with social media, which has been pretty cool. I've gone viral on TikTok. I've gone viral on Instagram. And it's connected me with different people as well. I've also used like the paid advertising,
Mm-hmm.
and I like it because I use it when I want to like fill in spots and I want new people to come in. Um, I'll like promote the marketing, and I'll have it specifically target the area that I'm in, and I'll have it specifically target, women in that age, like,
Mm-hmm.
and like, um, yeah, it does get me new clients, and I see it work.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sounds like you're doing a lot of things right in marketing, Ashley, and I have totally felt that same pain point as you, having being I'm a business owner, and I've had to do, like, you're wearing all these hats. So like you're doing the services and you're doing the marketing, and you're the content developer. So one thing I remember, when it comes to marketing, is like reuse, recycle, repeat. Because like we're probably so sick of hearing about our business, right? It's like, oh, I've already done this, I've already talked about this. But our audience, they're not in our world. They're not like, running the business. And so a lot of times it's not actually new content that we need to be creating. It's the reuse, recycle, repeat. Um, and then and so always with kind of that call to action, or like Tina had mentioned, like ways to engage the clients. And so and we'll talk more about kind of some of the strategies around that too. But thank you for sharing, and it's nice to meet you. All right, and then we have Aubriana.
Hi. So I am actually still at my business, but you guys are in my ear. So I'm Aubriana. I'm the owner of the Curl District Hair Salon, a salon that's working to desegregate the beauty industry to create an inclusive space where people, regardless of their gender or hair type, they're able to come in and know that they can be exceptionally serviced. I focus on hair coaching and hair growth. I'm more of a treatment-based salon and just trying to bring a different feel back to the industry. I have a storefront on Smith Avenue that I just opened in June. Although I've been in operation since 2018, I just was working at a friend's salon for the past couple of years doing chair rental. And then I just got my own salon in 2024. I'm also a cosmetology instructor, and I'm getting ready to launch like courses to teach in my actual salon as well, to just help people not only in the industry, but just the community to better learn their hair and love their hair. And when it comes to marketing, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. We are not friends at all. It stresses me out. I actually fully understand how to use social media. And oddly enough, I coach people all the time on how to get engagement and how the algorithm works. I know exactly how it works. I just absolutely hate doing it. And every time I meet somebody to find if I could just pay them, they always tell me like $1,500. And I'm like, that's fair. Because I would pay that. I just don't have like $1,500 just ready available for me. I do not post often, which is really crazy because I actually have like very high like engagement, even though I really don't post. I notice that when I do post, uh people book, but people book regardless. And so it's definitely made me be lazy because the word of mouth definitely does what it needs to do, because what I offer is very unique already. But I want to learn content. I know that it's an additional stream, especially with like the natural instructor that I am. I know like if I really committed myself to social media, I could really make it work. And so yes, that's just I've never no, I've done paid things on Facebook, But marketing, me and Mark, like the only way to say it, me and marketing were really not friends. Like I don't really enjoy doing it. And my other thing that I want to share to you and kind of get your feedback, because I love the reuse, the what you just said after Ashley went. I have like 80,000, literally 80,000 hair and video pictures in my phone. So getting content's never the issue. I set the tripod up, it's there. It's literally taking that. And now I feel completely overwhelmed because like stuff has gotten old, but I haven't posted it. And so like I
Yeah.
don't even make content anymore. And I'm kind of like annoyed because I have a new space. So a lot of my content's from when I was working at my friend's salon, but it's like still good content. Like the quality was good and the angle was good and like it did what it needed to do. So I'm at this place where it's like, do I still use what's old? Or yeah, just a little
Yeah.
overwhelmed over here. One woman show. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're in the right space, and also it's so cool that you guys it's very rare that we get like the same industry in a class. Usually it's like so many different. So that allows us to really kind of dive into like your specific industry. And also, you might have some overlapping services, but it all sounds like you guys are pretty kind of unique in like your primary services. So I'm like, right. I was like, you guys should be cross promoting each other. Like there's opportunity here in this room. And another thing too is I think know that there's so much more to like marketing and sales than social media, and that's just one channel, right? And not and sometimes that's the channel that really helps expand and grow a business, and sometimes it's just a secondary, not a primary channel. And so we'll kind of talk about all the different channels. And when I say channel, that just means essentially like the tool that we're using to communicate to who we want to sell our product to. So channels in the world of marketing, sometimes they're called channels or vehicles, where it's like, so Facebook, Instagram, that's just one channel. But we also might have, press releases, paid ads, a kind of a business to business partnership where you're cross promoting each other. And there's a lot of different things. So let's jump into kind of the execution of what we want our business plans to look like. So just as a recap, in the last session, we dug into your business actuals and kind of analyzing your actuals for trends. So many times people just kind of assume what their income and expenses are. And when we start to actually look at what they are, sometimes there's some aha moments. Sometimes, like Ashley mentioned, you start to see like, oh, this thing is actually the product or service that is making me the most money for like the lowest amount of my time, or the costs of this product is less, but I can charge more, and so my return on investment is better here. So the actuals are always going to be where you find like the golden nuggets and where you should make decisions of how you want to change, expand, grow, or sometimes even take away certain products or services. And then you started comparing your goals to your current state. So sometimes we have goals, and as we look at our actuals, our goals need to shift because we've realized, oh, maybe, I think a lot of times I've seen clients who assume a certain service is what is generating them the most money. But when they start to look at their actuals, they're realizing, oh, actually, this service, I'm losing money on this service, or I'm not generating as much money. And so kind of being able to compare your goals to your current state. So today you can kind of shift or make plans depending on what you learned from that analysis. Okay. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to go over marketing, pricing. We'll have a break in there. There's only 3 of us, so if we need breaks or it makes, I will kind of really be asking you what your needs are. And so if there's not much change in your overall pricing strategy, but you have a lot of questions around sales and ops, then I'd rather spend more time there. And so I will just kind of cater today's class based off of your needs. But these are the four main areas that we will work on tonight. So let's get grounded. I just want everyone to I want to remind everyone that this is your space tonight. And so you use this space as you need. Camera on, camera off. If you need to step away and take a break, or you need to help the kiddos, whatever you need to do, this is your space. You also have permission to ask the questions that you need to ask for your business. But right now, let's just take a moment and lean into your chair, take a deep breath, and do whatever you need to do to feel present, to feel comfortable and engaged as you can be. Give yourself permission to know that there's going to be points in tonight's session that your mind's going to wander. Acknowledge that it's wandered. It's thinking about all of the other to-dos you need to do. Call attention to that and bring your attention back to class. Know that you have permission to take up space, to make mistakes, that you're valued, that you belong. And if you want and you have pen and paper handy, go ahead and write yourself a permission slip of how you want to show up tonight, what you need, and what you give yourself permission to do. All right. Okay, before we dive into our lessons for tonight, let's just have a little bit of a discussion around what you learned from your current financials in last week's session. And did you highlight any actions that you need to take or changes you want to make in your business?
From last week, I did start entering my financials, and I guess I was just looking at the services that were like on the lower end that I charged like less for, and I see so many clients for that service that like I feel like if I were to bump up the price, I don't know if people would stop booking that service with me, or like they might go elsewhere, because it's the people that pay like for more the expensive services that always rebook, right? But it's like it's those like small services that people like will continuously like I know they'll come through because it's not super expensive. So for example, I charge $30 for eyebrow threading, right? And then I charge 60 for like a returning client brow tint and thread, and it goes up from there to like 156 for a brow lamination, your tint and thread. And so I have those people that come monthly for that service. But a lot of my time is taken up by just a regular brow thread, and it takes me 20 minutes, right? But I'm making 30, and that's like, and then sometimes, well, a lot of the time I'll get a tip, right? But I need 3 people to fill that hour. And then compared to the people that pay like 156 for the brow lamination, it's already 1 hour booked, you know? So it's like less work, but I'm still getting that, income in. And so I'm all like, I've been charging 30. I think the last time I had a price raise was back during COVID on that specific service. Because everything else I feel like I've priced at a good point, because like not only do they get the service, but they get a little mini aftercare kit to make sure they're maintaining their stuff like their brows at home, So I try to include that with that because I need them to take care of their eyebrows if they want to continue that service, But
Right.
it's like the cheaper services, and for me, I get sometimes I struggle with anxiety, so there's times when it's like just back to back to back, like I get overwhelmed, but I'm a, like sometimes I have to push through the day even when I'm not feeling 100 because I have 20 people coming in versus when I have like, you know, like 5 people coming in and I already made, you know, what I'm supposed to when I like compared to what I would make like in a 20 client day, I already made it with 5 clients, you know.
Yeah.
Um
So
so
those,
it's just hard. Yeah, to
yeah,
kind of navigate
yeah.
around that.
I hear you and I see you, and I think, this is such a common pain point and
Yeah.
for businesses, especially those who, have years under their belt and want to grow. And so a lot of your business plan is you deciding how you want to grow, what it wants to look like. And in this position, Ashley, we will talk about some of the pricing strategy and how to communicate and what to anticipate when prices do change. Um, and then also, because you're a service provider, your services are so closely tied into your time. And so the question really becomes, how do I want to spend my time? What does the ideal day for Ashley look like? And if the ideal day is to have 5 customers who are paying and receiving services of, a value of 100 plus, then let's create your plan to aim to achieve that and start
Yeah.
tapering out these lower value services where you have to get 20 clients to reach, the bottom line at the end of the day. Um, so a lot of kind of planning is thinking about the different numbers that you can move and the price points and how many clients to equal this. So it is a lot of, budgeting math and kind of playing with numbers, but I always like to kind of think of what does my ideal day look like? And I was like you, when I started Loving Cupcakes, I had 4 different services. Um, and it was always easier to fill many slots of the lower paying ones, but then at some point I was getting burnt out and realizing like, well, if I can just get 5 of these really high paying products and services sold and do a really good job and start to build my brand in this avenue, I'll work less and make more. And that was really one of my motivations as a business owner was I wanted flexibility with my day. I didn't want to be giving 40, 60, 90, 100 hours a week in return for minimum wage. I wanted to change that. And so I think a lot of it is like, how can we get your business to match the lifestyle that you want and be realistic, right? Like it's really easy to be
Mhm.
like, I want to work 20 hours a week and make $500,000.
Yeah.
But we have to be realistic with like, what is our business? How do we make money? What are different ways we can generate different types of income?
Hmm.
Um, and how do I make things easier, more efficient, and as you mentioned, like how do I work smarter, not harder? So we'll discuss some of those things and start looking at some of the scenario planning too that we can do. Thank you for sharing. Did anyone else have any aha moments or things that kind of became highlighted or questions they have after last week's session?
Um, well, after last week's session, I'm like still like crazy overwhelmed with the finances and QuickBooks and all of that mess. Um, but like looking forward to this class, I did like I looked at my Square reports, and I can like break it down by category. And I have it's really odd. It's like about 50% of my income was from beauty services and the other 50% entertainment services. But like half of the things that I did were the entertainment, and I did double the services of beauty, but I don't know how to like break that down
Okay.
and like, because maybe for one wedding I could do like 20 services. And then, but for entertainment, like I know that each item sold is hours worked. So I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, the breakdown of the income.
Yeah. Um, Tina, can you help me understand what the entertainment means in your
Oh,
business?
yeah. So airbrush face painting, airbrush tattoos, so working birthday parties or barbecues or community events, also festivals and fairs.
And
Um,
does that generally is when that revenue comes in for the category of entertainment, is that generally like someone has booked you for a flat rate and like your time is there, or is it someone's booked you, but then the customers or the people who are at the fair are then purchasing and paying you directly?
it's both.
Okay.
So I offer I offer hired, like private hire, meaning they pay me an hourly rate to be present at the event and their guests get services for free or
hmm
complimentary.
hmm
I'm trying not to use the word free. Um, and then I also work pay per face events, which is usually where I pay a vendor fee, um, and I charge per person for face paint or tattoos or whatever.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Yeah, so I think when it comes down to that, then when we start to look at the conversions of like where does Tina want to spend her time, it might be not at those two categories, but the time spent.
What do you mean by that?
So if like the income for both of those is looking at about 50%, like 50% of your annual revenue is coming from the entertainment, and then 50% is coming from what's the other category that you use?
Beauty. So for like wet makeup and hair for weddings,
Beauty.
spray tans, lash extensions.
So the revenue is about 50-50 for your business, but what is the time breakdown in those revenue categories? Does one category take more time or less time?
I don't know.
And so
I,
that's something to let's think about that a little bit tonight too, because
yeah.
So again, with someone who's providing a service, your time is your value. So when we start to decide, okay, I have two of these revenue streams that I'm categorizing. When I'm looking at my data, they're both 50%. But if one of them is taking way more of your time, we're gonna want to spend more of your time in the category that takes less time, but still yields the same amount of money.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cost savings ratio. And maybe they are like about the same as well. And so if like the time spent to execute those services are also almost equal,
I think they are.
then the decision is more about what do you enjoy the most, and where like when you think about a perfect day or a perfect quarter for your business, where's your time being spent?
I love both. And that's why I've never separated the two. I know a lot of people have said I should, but I really, like a perfect day for me would be to have a wedding go perfectly, no hiccups, everybody's happy, and then later work a birthday party that night and all the kids are happy, the parents are happy, I'm happy, I get some food and go home, Um, you know, I've worked a lot of weekends like that and I don't know. maybe if I break it down to like what costs me more, maybe like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I have freelancers that work with me for the beauty. So like other makeup and hair artists that I hire to work a bigger wedding.
Mhm.
But I also train and hire artists to work with me as face painters and tattoo artists. So
Yeah.
although last year was my first year doing that, so I don't really have too much data on that.
Yeah. Okay. Lots of data though to look at, and that's also what makes business planning so complicated, right? Like there's time, there's the cost of products, there's the, the cost of actually running this, and then what you can charge your customer, um, and all of those things. And so the kind of the goal of all of this is for you to start to realize where your time is most valuable and what information is going to be the best information, what data is the best data for you as a business owner to be looking at on a regular basis to make the best decisions so you have a sustainable, viable, profitable business. Aubriana, was there any aha moments or things that you wanted to call out from last session?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Crunching numbers also stresses me out. So it was kind of a stressful session, so I don't really have anything to directly talk about.
Yeah. So common. Like, unless the business owner is an accountant or a bookkeeper, I have never met a business owner that's like, I went into business because I love bookkeeping and I love crunching numbers. Like that, that that's never no one has ever said those words again unless they're like an accountant or a bookkeeper. And so that's very normal. And it's confusing. There's so many different things to consider. And it's also generally not our passion as business owners. So I get you, I feel you. One of the first things that I did when I started my business, knowing that I, like you, am not the numbers and the crunching are not my favorite part of business. I hired a CPA to kind of help me better understand what I do need to be paying attention to and how I should be categorizing my books and what I need to do to have successful records and have smooth taxes and all of those things. And it was just the best investment that I've made in my business is just having a reliable and certified accountant to ask those questions and stay ahead of all of the laws and changes that happen. Um, but it is a lot, but it's so important. And now I've been in business for over 10 years, and actually looking at the financials and looking at the numbers is one of my favorite. It actually is one of my favorite things. But it took me a long time to get to the point where I actually enjoyed looking at the numbers. Okay, so again, some of the things that you all have been looking at are factors that are going to help us think about our marketing, our pricing, our sales, and our operations, and how to work towards your goal. It's hard to do anything in business if we don't kind of put these plans in place. Also, creating plans and operations takes some of that mental load that we're all walking around with out and puts it into, a place where we can take the mental load out and use it when we need it. It also helps if we get to the point in our business where there's growth and we need to hire, whether that's actually employees or contract workers. If you decide to outsource marketing or things like that, you can hand them like these plans that you're making, and just make your life easier too. Again, like the more we can kind of create in a plan and get out of your head, the more capacity you have to be able to serve your clients or, not work so many hours, which also would be nice. Okay, so let's do a little activity. So again, if you have pen or paper handy, or if you've got a computer and you want to type out whatever serves you best, I want you to think about these 3 questions. Why do you do what you do? What do you want this to achieve? And who will this impact, and why is that important? So take a few minutes to write down the answers to these questions. Okay, I also dropped 2 resources for you in the chat. We will not be um like watching the video during class today, so this is something that if you want to watch um in your own time. It's such a great video. Simon Sinek is a world-renowned marketer and just kind of talking about the reasons we ask the why is that the why we do things, what motivates us is usually why our customers come to us, why we do. So then we can create the how. But the why is at the center of everything. And there's some great, when he gives an example of Apple. So like Apple's not running commercials about like buy our new MacBook Pro or buy our new iPhone. They actually almost don't even mention the product. They're talking about the why you're investing in Apple. You're usually a creative, or you value capturing moments or being connected, and so it talks more about the motivation of why you do what you do. So, Tina, you could go out and say like, I, provide airbrush services and I provide tattoo services at events and yada yada. But I'm guessing that like the why would motivate you, right? Like, I think about, how a bride wants to feel on their wedding day. Like that's the motivation, right? Like that's why they would want to hire someone who is trusted and provides a safe place and makes them feel their best by looking their best on that day. Um, and and then what and how you do is, but it's that why that motivates someone to really start to be invested in you. And also your why is kind of your motivator when you're like, oh, why do I do this? I should just go get a job someplace, right? Like you get to center back into your why. Like whys are what motivates you. So just to provide some examples, I think you've all been in business long enough, so I'm going to do this part really fast because you all, know and understand really what a target customer is. And it sounds like you kind of already all have a lot of your target customers identified. So, but just for reference, we're going to do this case study so you can kind of see how this business operates. So then when you go into live plan and think about some of the stuff, you just have an example. So when we think about, this is Mother's House Cleaning Services. Their target customer is affluent single income families and 2-income middle class families from the Twin Cities area. So we have kind of a geographical location, we have some psychographics in here, and so we kind of know who we're aiming to talk to. A business owner who wants to dive even more specific might pick what zip codes of the Twin Cities area, or what does that actually mean, or perhaps neighborhoods. And so just know, like, the clearer you get around who is the person that you want to be working with, and you're thinking about everything, like where do they already shop, what do they think, how do they dress, what like what does their life look like. The more you know your customer, the better you can speak to them. And their services are high-end cleaning services that can be completely trusted in the client's home. They offer everything from residential to just cleaning rooms to laundry and child and pets. So calling out some specific services. So we're going to learn a little bit about kind of the 4 areas of marketing that I want you to be considering when starting to write your plans. And so we're going to learn about paid, earned, shared, and owned marketing. So you can think about it as like the acronym like PESO. And so in this model, there's benefits as a business owner using these 4 components. When we were talking in the beginning of class, I heard a lot about both social media, which can be both kind of a combination of a few of these items. And I also heard word of mouth, those and client referrals, right? Those are really great and strong areas that you want to continue fostering. So I want you thinking about, what would those look like in my business? Where are you already strong? How do you make it stronger? Where are you weak? And how can you either learn or delegate and add those things? And then start to think about the strategy behind that. So when we talk about PESO, we're talking about paid, which means perhaps you are paying for ads on like Google or Meta. Perhaps you're paying an influencer to promote your products and services. Perhaps you're taking out a paid ad in a magazine or a billboard, anything that you would be paying for exposure of your services and products for. And so right now I want you to think about, am I doing any paid advertisement? And if no, and your goal is growth, what can you do when looking at your budget to add in a line to do some paid marketing? And maybe in this first year, you can't do a large amount of paid marketing, but I do think that if growth is a goal of yours, you are going to want to think about, when you're planning, how much money into marketing can you put in? Businesses that are scaling and growing are putting money into paid ads, but being very smart. They're putting ads where their clients are already, so whether that's a magazine, a podcast, streaming services, a billboard, a radio station, a neighborhood kind of circulation that goes out, a newspaper. You already know where your clients are, and so that's where you're putting your money. If you're just like sprinkling a little bit of paid ads everywhere, but there's no strategy behind it, that's generally going to be not as successful as a very strategic. So again, with paid, think about how much money can I put in my budget to pay for marketing? Where are my clients already? And how can I put an ad in front of them? Earned, when we talk about earned marketing, that is generally like, we call it earned because like you've earned it. Like you have hustled, you have built a brand, people are aware of you, and now the press wants to cover you. And so perhaps you've sent press releases to WCCO and KARE 11 and Twin Cities Live or NPR, and they now want to cover your business. They want to come in and do a story about you. And so this is where someone is reaching out to you, or you've reached out to them and they agree, like, yep, we want to tell a story about you and your business. This could also be where you're winning awards, right? There's things like Best in Twin Cities or Best in this or 30 under 30 or 40 under 40. There's all these awards and reviews that you can get as well. Another thing to think about with earned is when you provide an excellent experience and service or product to your customer, you've almost earned the ability for them to then go write a Google review or an online review or provide a testimony that you can put on your website or your socials. Or so think about any type of way that like your service, your products have earned recognition and people are willing to spend some time for free to like share with the public or their friends or their family the services you're providing. Word of mouth would be considered in this like earned, right? And since the like creation of public relations and marketing, word of mouth has always been the freest, cheapest, and most effective form of marketing. And so continue to build strong relations with your customers and clients, because at the end of the day, like I think about a lot of times where I shop, where I eat. When I relocated to St. Paul, right? And then my friends, I'm like, okay, who should my stylist be? Where do I go? Like, what do I need to know? People are talking. And so a lot of business is relationship building. The third form of marketing is shared. And so, right when we kicked off, I was like, you are all in a similar industry where you would have like similar clients. And like right here, there's an opportunity for the three of you to do some shared media together, like create shared posts, like link each other, like there's opportunity here. And that can be something that you can think about for all of your businesses. If there's complementary services or complementary businesses, create a shared program where, perhaps you partner with another service provider that's not offering something that you have. And so, maybe you partner with things that you already know your customers like. Maybe there's boutiques or gyms or nail salons, or restaurants that that your customers are already doing. Can you collaborate with those business owners to create kind of shared media, shared marketing, where it's a win-win, where businesses are coming together? Also, this is where getting involved with your local chamber of commerce can be beneficial too. Sometimes they generate things. If some of you have a physical space, sometimes getting involved with the other business owners on those streets and can help generate more of this like shared approach to talking about your business. We also you know, something that's really blown up in the last 5 years is that influencer engagement. And so that would be kind of, there sometimes are influencers who will provide essentially engagement for for receiving a service of yours. So instead of paying them, it's like, come in, you can try my service if you promote it on your social. There's so many different ways that you can think about sharing and kind of in collaboration together, promoting everyone's business. And then the last is owned marketing. So when you think about hosting your own webinar or podcast, making sure that your business has a website, that you have videos, that you have ebooks, that you have images, thinking about things that are important to you and your clients. I heard Ashley say, I need my clients taking care of their brows if they want to, you know, receive my services. And so having resources that are important to your business and your clients. So like, how do you care for brows? Making sure that there's a section on your website for that. Or if someone was like me and their mom brought them to JCPenney's in the 90s, and basically you have to make sure that you have no real eyebrows. Like I oftentimes would be Googling something like, how do I get my eyebrows to grow back? Or how can I get, you know, like, what can I do? And so thinking about, do you have articles that you can write and have on your website? So when someone's Googling the thing that you are trying to do, you're high in that Google search, right? And so, but you have to have content, you have to own certain things. So your SEO is being essentially brought up when people are searching things that are relevant to your business. And actually, my mom brought me to JCPenney's in like the late 90s, and they waxed my eyebrows into like the thinnest little pencil. And like I have makeup on my eyebrows today, but like if I had no makeup on, they'd be nothing. So the world needs you. I need you.
Definitely come see me.
Yeah. I thought every time I see my mom, I'm like, you just had to do that, didn't you? Like, ruin my eyebrows the rest of my life. They like never grew back. It's crazy. And like my mom has like the biggest, beautiful eyebrows, and I'm like, I can't get mine to grow more than just a thin line. It's very sad. But you didn't come here today to learn about my eyebrows, so I'll get back to
I will recommend though, if you've used cold press, sorry about that. If you use cold press organic castor oil and brush it into your brows at night and just be religious with it, like every night, do it, your hairs are gonna sprout like crazy. You're gonna have real bushy eyebrows. So
Okay. Well,
yeah.
I'll have to try that. Well, I'll report
Yeah.
back to you. And
Yeah.
I'll probably just need to come see you.
Yep. Yep. You just have to come see me.
So kind of coming back to thinking about what's going to be the best forms of marketing, because also remember, like, you're one person, and unless you have the budget to delegate or hire like a marketing firm, or you have to think about where's the best use of your time. Again, where are your clients already? And what are you trying to achieve with your content, right? We don't want to create content just for the sake of creating content. We want content that's always circling back to your why, that has a call to action, that's going to convert a viewer into a client, that is going to get press to want to pick up your business. And again, thinking about, if I want to grow my business, how much money can I actually afford to put behind my marketing? And where do I want to do that? And I think very relevant with like what happened with TikTok not too long ago is, if a platform went away, what's your backup plan? So making sure that you're not putting all of your eggs in one basket, that you have diversity in your marketing platform. So again, thinking about kind of that this model of paid, earned, shared, own, and making sure there's some diversification, but also don't feel like you have to be on everything. So when thinking about Mother's House Cleaning and thinking about the strategy, they decided to pay for Instagram ads to access their target demographic. And so their target demographic, they identified Instagram was the best social platform for this type of client. When I think about my own businesses, with my consulting business, I was only doing kind of social engagement on LinkedIn because I wasn't really looking, it was for professional consulting, and so LinkedIn matched my target demographic better than, say, like a Facebook or Instagram when I was trying to just select where do I spend my time on social. So again, thinking about your clients, where are they? And maybe you're like, well, Emily, they're on a little bit of everything. Some of them are on Facebook, some of them are Instagram, some of them are on TikTok. Then try to think about, again, working smarter. So can you use, an app where you post something and it goes out on all of your channels? Earned, so Mother's House Cleaning, they decided to ask each customer to complete a Google review that feeds into their website and social media. This is such an important thing to do, is actually ask your customers. And so I am someone who almost never leaves a review, but will always leave a review if a business owner asks me to. And in being a business owner, I think once in 10 years of business, I think once someone, without me asking, left a review for my business. Otherwise, I always asked. And I realized that like if I asked, that's when they would do it. And so don't be afraid to ask your clients like, hey, leave a review, and make it really easy for them to leave a review, or ask them to leave a review before they even leave, your services. And let them know why, like why reviews are so important. Like, hey, would you mind taking 1 minute right now to leave me a review? Because like it just builds trust. It helps me promote my business. It's such an easy way to build business. So if you don't have that in your practice right now of when you are with your clients, start asking them towards your end of services to leave a review. And sometimes like even be fun, like when I would do my Love and Cupcakes events, I would be like, let's take photos, or I was like, everyone that leaves a review before you leave tonight, like I'm gonna put your name in a drawing and then I'm gonna give you something, right? So there was also like I would kind of try to create fun things around motivating them to like leave a review right here, right now. So then they didn't like walk out of the event and forget to do it. Shared. So in this business case study, Mother's House Cleaning created cleaning videos with tips and time lapse that they could share on Instagram and TikTok. So again, thinking about when you go to create content, like reuse, recycle, repeat, right? Like you want to be just talking about your services and what you're offering, but then also complementary things. I see sometimes people creating content that is not related at all to the business. And so kind of stay within that arena of your business and, sharing things like, and so you're really trying to find your target audience. A great example is like since all of you are in like the beauty industry, if I saw you like posting food tutorial videos, like unless it has like it's related to like eat this to like get your skin glowing or something like that, or like this helps promote hair growth, or if you're just like posting food videos and that, I'd be like, this is not related to your business. Stop doing this. Like stay focused on like the things related directly to your businesses that would get the clients you want serving coming to your media. And then owned, again, thinking of there's so many different ways that you can own marketing, like own content. So that's also videos you create, maybe tutorials you write, a podcast, anything that kind of, again, would relate to that would live usually online. Today almost everything is so digital that someone could go and access and find. Okay, so I think we can do these two things simultaneously. If there's discussion around like what forms of media you do well or you want to grow, here for discussion, but I actually just want to get you guys working on your marketing plan. And I'm here for questions or thoughts that come up. But let's spend the next few minutes, open your live plan account. Let me stop sharing. So when you go to your live plan account, I have Tina's open right now. You're going to go to the execution plan, the execution tab, and you're going to click on the marketing plan. And again, remember that there's AI. You can start to do things, give it instructions. But what I want you to think about are the 4 areas that we just talked about. And so, and thinking about, again, like, what are you already doing well? And how do you continue to do that? And, can you make it even better? And what are areas that you want to focus on more? And is growth the goal? And how are you going to do that? And how are you going to think about paid marketing, earned marketing, shared marketing, and owned marketing? And so let's spend, 10 minutes where you're just working, writing in your live plan, thinking about like, and I know, like, we just started a new year, and I kind of like to think about it too. Like, what can I be doing throughout the next year to market my business? What are things I want to go after? What do I need to create? What do I need to change on my website or my socials? Do I have certain things ready to go? If a news station called me because I'm kicking ass in my business, do I have a package ready to go for them? Like, do I have a headshot? Do I have a logo? Do I have that brand package? Is my story easy to find? Are my clients' testimonies easy to find? And what do I want out in the world? What story do I want my business telling? And then build the things to be able to do that. So I'm going to stop talking unless you want to ask me a question and I can give you feedback. But otherwise, let's spend 10 minutes working on marketing plan. Okay, I have a question for the group. How many of you feel like you have your pricing down? Like, you know what products and services you're selling, and you have the price, like, you feel good about your price.
I feel good about my prices.
I know,
I feel
Ashley, you
like I,
talked about a potential increase of some services coming up.
yeah, like I was thinking about tweaking the price of just like the basic services, the brow threading, the brow waxing,
Mhm.
just like tweaking those prices as well because also the price of like product has gone up now.
Yeah. Yes.
Even with those
And
simple services, I still use quite a bit of material
yeah.
to do those services. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was looking in all your live plans, and most of you had entered some sort of pricing in your plans. And um, so make sure, um, Ashley, were you able to, I think yours is the only one right now that I don't see.
Oh yeah, I was connecting my QuickBooks to it. Yep.
Okay, okay.
I want to
Um,
say about my pricing, I have my pricing set, but apparently I don't charge enough. And so pricing is one of those struggle points for me.
okay.
And so I'm realizing that, I don't know. I don't know if you can see what I put into the live plan for pricing, because I feel, oh, I'm on my Zoom call, I'm sorry. Um,
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like, okay, I'm charging enough, but I keep getting feedback or like I constantly get the like, oh, that's all you're charging. And so I'm honestly questioning if I need to reevaluate.
Yeah. And when people are saying, "Oh, that's all you're charging," are those customers or people who know the market rate for your services?
I started working with like some big business coaches, and they're the main ones who are really, really pushing that I don't charge enough. My
Okay.
customer, I mean, I don't think my customers will ever say I'm charging too much. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they respect me. I don't charge like nothing. I
Yeah.
think, but they're what the feedback that I'm getting is I'm at the top of the industry, if that makes sense. So I definitely could charge more. I just don't see a point in it because I'm making, and maybe it's being small minded. And so that's where it's kind of like I'm curious to see because
Hmm.
like I generate $100 an hour. So I'm not mad at that. I'm not greedy. I don't feel overworked or tired. And so that's where I'm struggling. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, do I need to charge more if I feel comfortable with what I'm making just because I know that I'm, you know,
Yeah. Well, let's just talk about kind of pricing strategy a little
okay.
bit, because I think there's a few different components that go into it. Um, I think generally what I'm hearing is you're all pretty good, pretty comfortable with your pricing. And really, when we think about pricing, pricing isn't really like a set and forget it. I've been in business for so I'm going into my 11th year of business, and my prices have changed over those 10 years, right? Some of it is because my expertise is at like a master level in some of the services that I provide. um, that I'm now at the point where if someone hires me, for example, to do consulting and grant writing, I'm an expert level grant writer. I can write a grant in probably half of the time that most, entry level or mid level grant writers can do it. And I have like a very high percentage success rate. And so in those things, I can justify what my hourly rate or my flat rate would be for that service. So I think too, but like 10 years ago when I was just starting out, I would have never charged what I charge today, just because I was at an entry level, and now I'm at a master level. So I think with all of you, depending on, yeah, where you are, your skill set, how long you've been in the industry, what is the average market rate for your service, and kind of always being aware of that. Um, and then paired with who you want to serve, right? Like, and what they're willing to pay. Because there's two different things you always have to be looking at is, you know, what is that market rate? What can I actually charge? And then can the clients I want to work with, will the clients that I want to work with pay for that? And so there's kind of those components, but let me go back to sharing my screen. Also, where did that go? Why didn't you? I want to share this screen, please. In the chat, if you, before you leave tonight, if you have a website and you want to drop their URL, I will do like a quick website audit as well and share with you some opportunities that I see that you could do, like things that you could do or to make just kind of that channel better. Okay. Can you all see the PowerPoint slide? Okay, wonderful. I'm going to share the links to these two videos. Also in your LMS, you have access to all of these, but there's a 6-minute video and a 4-minute video that you can just put on your list of videos to watch that talk about pricing strategy, and kind of just the different components to think about. Of course, pricing is not a set it and forget it. So I don't want you to year over year or even quarter over quarter feel like your prices are set and that's what they have to be. Actually, you should always, you know, at least once a quarter be thinking about, do my prices make sense, right? Things might change week by week, right? They've been changing like crazy just the last few weeks, and who knows what's going to happen. So, you know, like what's going to happen to any products or materials if I'm sourcing them from other countries and tariffs go into, you know, effect. Year over year, cost of living always goes up. Do you need to purchase certificates or education to keep licensing for the type of services you provide? There's all of these things that you have to be considering. So again, like please don't set a price and think like I'm locked in forever. That's not and I like this too. It's called the Goldilocks effect. And so, you know, when you think about the story of Goldilocks, it's the same with your business's prices. You don't want them to be too high where you're going to lose your ideal customer, but you don't want them to be too low where you're not covering your costs because you're a business, right? You need to cover your costs. And so there's always kind of that like just right spot, that sweet spot. And again, one of the choices you have as a business owner is to decide like what's your long-term goal? Like what, you know, are you satisfied with what your rates are? You're serving your ideal customer. You're achieving the annual revenue goals that you want to be achieving. You're living the life. You're happy. You're satisfied. Your decision, like no one gets to decide what success looks like for you. That's your definition. And every business owner is different. There's some business owners who are like, hey, I want to make enough money that covers my cost of living, allows me to be flexible so I can be with my family on nights and weekends and you know, like that's what I want. I don't want employees, and that's what success looks like to me. We have other business owners who are like, I want to grow and scale. I want to be, you know, multi-million-dollar business. I want 20 employees. I want products all over the United States. Everyone gets to kind of pick what their goal in business is. So also, you know, like a lot of the business literature and a lot of the business coach methodology is always about more of that capitalistic view of there's one way that business is successful, and that's that they're making a bunch of money, right? that's not when we especially look at women who go into business, that is not generally their biggest motivator. Obviously, I want you all making money, because women do really great things with money. And but again, like your definition of success is going to look different. So you might hear coaches being like, you should charge more. You probably should. And but also know like what your value is, who you want to be serving and that. But at the end of the day, you definitely always need to be covering your costs. So if at any point what you're charging isn't covering your costs and you're not making some sort of profit, I definitely need you to increase prices. And so that means that you might also have to um, communicate them. So when you're thinking about the price change, making sure that, you know, I think I like to think about a lot of times communicating, um, using the analogy of like when you're flying. If my flight's delayed and they're not communicating with me that like why my flight's delayed or how it's changing, I start to get really frustrated and I start to make up a lot of stories in my head and I just get more and more frustrated. But if they're communicating with me like your flight's delayed, we anticipate it's going to take an hour, this is why it's delayed, this is what we're doing for you. Um, I'm happier. I can't change it. I don't want it to be delayed, but at least I know what's going on. So the same is kind of with that communicating your price change. So you have repeat clients, you value them, um, you are able to kind of get ahead of the change. So you might say like, okay, now it's February, maybe you decide, okay, in April 1st is when I'm going to change my prices. So you communicate April 1st, you're going to see a change of these following services from this rate to this rate. And that allows, you know, your clients to react, be notified ahead of time. um, I think consumers have gotten pretty used to rates increasing, that oftentimes I hear that like almost there's no reaction. They're just kind of like anticipating that there's going to be increases year over year. But also there's ways that you can provide kind of an explanation around why, right? Like, um, it could be something about like, you know, I now have this certification or I've now reached this milestone and therefore my prices are increasing, or I invested in this tool, this equipment, and it improves my quality of services. You know, and again, you don't need to tell your customers too much, but I think being able to kind of communicate, this is what we're going to be charging and this is what you can expect with that, right? And so they know like you're getting your value in this. Also, it allows you to anticipate or prepare for any responses. And so one thing I like to think about too is sometimes when you change your pricing and if there's an increase and you lose some of the clients, generally after a few weeks if you're implementing your strategy correctly and you're doing your marketing and sales, usually those clients who go away because there was a price increase get replaced, you know, and so again, thinking about who do you want to be serving and at what price point.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Um, so, uh, what do you think about, like explaining your prices? Because like sometimes I think, oh, my prices are too high, because I see that someone else is only charging so whatever amount for hair. And then I'm like, oh, and then I always catch myself doing this. I go back and look at my prices and I'm like, oh, maybe I am charging too much. And then I start thinking about, okay, like how much lower can I change this and blah, blah, blah. But then I'm like, wait a minute, let me look a little bit more into what their price really is because that is lower. And then it turns out that they have a 5% booking fee that they add in like mandatory gratuity or
Mm.
like other things that they charge so much for, or that they don't include this or that in their service. Yeah, or like I do face painting, but my face painting rate is higher than other face painters because I use an airbrush versus a paintbrush. I don't know, is that
So
something that I should do and include in my, like, I don't know, marketing about my services? Or
I think so. I think, that's the differentiator between you and someone else that's providing some of those services. And so your equipment costs with something like an airbrush is obviously more expensive. Um, and there's certain clients who want to know everything, right? They want to know all the details, get in the weeds. And then there's clients who like frankly just like they don't care. Like they know they want this service and they're going to book it, and you have everything in between. And so I think a lot of times I like to like communicate those, in the story, like in the about yous and in the whys, um, the value that this adds, and you can do it in unique ways. You're not like, I charge this because I use an airbrush and other people use paintbrushes. Like it's more of a like, this is our rate. And it's like talking about like the quality of an airbrush, or, like what makes Tina different, or how many years you've been in this industry. Or, I also think about the client's time in these. Like someone who's been doing what you do, the longer you've done it, the faster you are. So it's like they're getting time back. Or you're doing face painting and like the parent's not sitting there for 20 minutes. Having like a 6-year-old, I've sat in a numerous amount of face paints, and the faster someone can be, I'm so thankful for that, because like there's only so much sitting around that I want to be doing, right? And
yeah,
so like
I am
those
pretty
are,
fast with that.
yeah, and so those are also value adds. And I'm, like I am not an expert in your industry by any means, but I think like there's other value adds to, the time it takes, the experience you bring, the equipment you're using, the quality of products. Um, and I think also when you're thinking about your price change and when you're thinking about your business, I want you to be aware of your competitors and I want you to be aware of your industry pricing, but I don't want you to be so fixated and aware of them that like you're thinking more about like, ooh, they're doing this and I'm not doing this. Because you can start to get too focused on your competitors and those analysis, that I want you really, being aware, but staying true to your business and your pricing strategy. And I would say you would want to rethink a lot of your approaches and your pricing strategy if you're not booking anyone. Like if all of a sudden no one's booking you, there's got to be something going on that you need to solve for. And a price point might be that. But from what I'm hearing from you today and what I'm understanding is no one's having problems right now getting booked. You're just, thinking strategically about how can I get more booked, or how do I focus on the service that I want to provide at the price I want to provide it. Um, but like I think about some of my photography services that I offered when looking at the industry average of other photographers, I was more expensive. And why, it was like I have a 4-year degree in broadcast journalism. I was a videographer and reporter for CBS. I, have over 20 years of experience, and so I can price myself there and people want to book me because of that. I'm also just one person, so I can't book everyone, right? I don't actually want to serve everyone. I want to serve a specific type of client that wants to work with me. So also know too, in your pricing strategy, you're also kind of creating um, the environment that you want to work in. And I think too, like we won't role play tonight because of time, but think, like maybe, ask a friend or just kind of role play yourself too, where you start practicing, um, being able to talk about your pricing strategy or writing kind of frequently asked questions on your website. But I think too, the clearer you are around things, being respectful, being transparent, Know your reasoning, know your value. I think so many people undervalue themselves or get worried about increasing their price and are like, oh gosh, and should I charge this much? Generally, like especially when I, like working with predominantly women entrepreneurs, we tend to undervalue ourselves. And we live in a system that undervalues us. And so a lot of times we get worried about our prices and generally like you should all probably look at your prices and think about actually should I be charging more? And knowing that like with that comes more opportunity and I um and you can just make bigger impacts in the world too the more money you make and but again like it goes back to your own value system. um but I think yeah, the clearer you are about things, just the better it is. And then people not getting surprises is very nice too, especially if you have repeat customers. If you're an industry that doesn't have many repeat customers, doing some of these communication things aren't always necessary. But it's very necessary for services where like you're having someone book you, every few weeks.
I have a quick question, and I'm not sure
Okay.
if I maybe missed it. About how much time should you give if you're getting like, so I do know that I'm getting ready to increase my price slightly. How much time should you give per like your recommendation notice? Like if I think I'm gonna raise them in March, should I start doing it now? Is there a right amount of time, do you think?
Yeah, I think the sooner you can communicate, the better. Because then that, it doesn't again, like so as soon as like, okay, I'm gonna increase my prices, I'm gonna change my pricing plan, or I'm taking away some services, or anytime that there's a change in your business model that is going to impact or provide a different experience than something a client has experienced in the past. I think the earlier you can communicate, the better. So if you're, there's no necessarily magic number of like 6 weeks is the sweet spot. I just think like the earlier you can communicate, the better. So if you think like, okay, in March, that gives a few weeks for clients to be notified. Also gives you the opportunity to have more than one communication go out. Again, a lot of times our customers, we live in an information overload, so they might not be paying attention to it, or, maybe they don't have an appointment until next week. So if or 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now. So if they see an email come from your business, they might ignore it until it's closer to their appointment. So I think earlier and often is the best kind of step. I wouldn't do it like I'm changing my prices and then you change them tomorrow, right? I would just like let people know, within, and it's nice to think about like a very obvious break. So maybe it's like March 1st, I'm changing my prices, or, and then think about, what else is going on in the world. Like I wouldn't want you to ever be like, April 1st, I'm changing my prices. And then people are like, oh, is this a joke? It's April Fool's Day. Like you want to think about like all of those things as well, when kind of announcing like this is when I'm going to start to do this, or you're going to start to see changes in my business, and what does that mean for you? Because I think at the end of the day, everyone wants to know, what does it mean for me? And if it doesn't have an impact on your client, you don't really need to communicate it, right? And so, um, so in live plan, I saw all of you had a pricing strategy, except for Ashley. I didn't see your product or your service prices in there. So just remember, as you kind of in between classes, as you're working on your plan, this is what you're looking for in live plan to make sure to go add your pricing strategy. And a lot of times what I like to do in a business plan is just put the headline current state and list all the products and services that you're currently providing and what the rate is, and then future state. So future state, so maybe by March 1st or on March 1st, these are the services I'm providing, and this is the cost I'm going to start charging. So again, current state, future state. So you can kind of see this is where I am today, but this is where I'm going in a month, in 3 months, next year, whatever kind of that timeline is.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so thinking about sales. So of course, like we have our pricing, we're marketing, you know, why we're doing what we're doing, what it is. We're making things very obvious for our clients. And so the goal is at some point to have these marketing efforts going on. We have our business in order, and then we need to make a conversion. So we have someone kind of like, they know our business, they know our brand, we're on their radar, but now we need them to actually book our services and pay us. And so what you need to make sure that you have is kind of like that clear process of this is how I'm going to market, and this is like kind of my goal of converting them from knowing who I am, following me, reading my stuff, to actually becoming my client. And so there's a lot of strategy behind that as well. And a lot of that is just being very clear about the services you provide and who you're providing them for and how someone can book them. And thinking about sometimes the obvious. I know that one of my biggest pain points when I'm trying to decide if I want to book a service or purchase something is like a very common thing I see, especially on socials, is someone's not putting the location of where their business is. So sometimes I'm like, is this business here in the Twin Cities? Is it in Minnesota? Like, where is this business? And I'm like digging to try to find where this business is. And so thinking about like the clearer you can be in your marketing so people can immediately see like, oh, this is someone that I could actually hire or book, or oh, this is just it's in my algorithm because I like this stuff, but this isn't actually someone that I could work with. But there's also things too to create like a clear sales line process. So that again is making sure that you're talking to your target audience and that you know that like this is who I'm talking to in everything that you do, that you're communicating like what your value is. And you know, sometimes sales strategy will like create an urgency around like, you know, limited time offer, 20% off, or if you're a product-based business, like, you know, we only have so many of these left, and when they're gone, they're gone. And then upselling to retain existing customers. And so upselling, that's the strategy of like you have someone in your seat and now you're like, do you want to add on this? Or, you know, like I think about, you know, do you also have products? And so it's like, okay, you're here for a cut and color, but I also have hair products and lotions, or you're here for an eyebrow tint, but I also sell like, you know, brow care kits. And so like making sure that when someone's in your seat in your services, do you also have opportunities to retain or upsell? Do you have referral programs? Are you asking the client to book an appointment at the current appointment, right? Anytime you can make sure that like once you have a client, what are you doing to try to keep them or sell them more of your services or products? And so that's kind of the sales strategy comes in like once the conversions happen, and how am I going to make sure that I am providing all the opportunities and letting the client know everything that I can provide for them. I think I like using that language versus upselling. Like I think a lot of people are like, ooh, selling, upselling, that sounds slimy. So I always like to think about like I want my clients to know all of the opportunities that I can provide them. So maybe it's like, I have this really great lotion, and these are the brushes that I use and promote and love. These are things that you can buy in my store or on my website. I have these sort of packages if you want to upgrade, if I'm coming to do your wedding, right? Like perhaps you partner with perhaps you like think about partnership strategies too, where it's like, oh, if you know, book me and this photographer, we do this together. And you're just thinking about kind of little things that you can provide to your client, and then keep them. Or like a referral program, obviously. You know, I'm thinking about the wedding industry, like, you know, I mean, I'm a divorced woman, so I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll have more than one wedding. I don't know. So so you could potentially retain customers, especially with the divorce rate being over 50%. But you know, generally like how can you be a referral, right? So generally like brides, you're not going to have repeat customers. But usually
I
they
can
have
have repeat customers with brides if they have maternity shoots coming up, or they want anniversary pictures or dinners. Like, so I do
Oh, that's
actually
so
have some
smart.
repeat clients because I do offer a loyalty discount.
Oh, I love that. Yes, that's such a good, like thinking of those other things. I was so like focused on thinking about like weddings, and I was like, so yes, so thinking about those sort of strategies too, where it's like, you know, getting women who aren't thinking about those things like me, thinking about like, hey, did you like the way you felt? Did you like, you know, like the way you looked in the photographs today? Like, I can do that. Um, I love that. Okay, so when you go into Live Plan again, there's going to be a sales section in Live Plan where you're going to kind of talk about those strategies that like Tina just mentioned. So like when I'm with a bride, I'm talking about like these are your other big life moments or other things like, and so you know, moments in time that you want captured or to feel elevated or to feel special, think about my services, right? And this is what I'm going to do for you. When you're, you know, I'm thinking about like the brow care and hair care, you always want to ask the customer, like, would you like to book your next appointment in a few weeks? And kind of keep, you know, making sure that you're thinking about those sales plan because actually retaining a customer is easier than finding new ones. So there's kind of these two things I want you thinking about is how do I get my new customers? And then once I have them as a customer, how do I keep them? And how do I keep my sales strategy going and my retention strategy going? Um, and so obviously we won't have time to get into all of them tonight, but I want you to think about just some of these tactics and write them down in Live Plan so me and my team at Women Venture can kind of look at them between now and next session and provide some feedback around kind of your marketing and your sales. Um, and then if you're stuck, utilize again the AI that's integrated into Live Plan because that AI is feeding into actually like business intelligence where, you know, it's not like a chat GTP, like this is actually been fed with business knowledge essentially. And so utilize that robot for what it's meant to be and ask to like some of the like what sales tactic would you use to, you know, increase my revenue or increase my client base or um, what are ways that I could upsell my products or, you know, what are ways that I could generate a different, you know, how and just ask AI a bunch of questions too. I love asking AI a bunch of crazy questions and then, you know, and then kind of using what works for me. Any questions just around like the difference between like a sales strategy and marketing? Okay. Then the last thing that is going to be kind of in your execution planning as you work through Live Plan is really around the operations. And operations is just, you know, a long word to basically say like This is how you do things at this business. This is the people, and maybe the people, it's just you. This is the process. So this is how I market. This is where I market. This is who I'm selling to. This is why. This is the process we use. Excuse me. This is, like all of the things that you use. So this is where I operate business. This is how I run my location. This is my facilities. This is the technology I use and the software. And again, thinking about that current state and future state. So this is where I currently operate my business. This is where in the future, I want to operate my business, right? And so, and maybe they don't change, but I always want you thinking current state and then future state. So these are the locations. In a few years, I hope to expand here. Or I hope to franchise, or I hope to open in other locations across the Midwest. What do your locations and facilities look like? What's the technology that you're using? Are you using free tools right now and you're hoping to convert into software where you're going to have to pay a monthly or annual subscription fee? What's your tech stack? I think sometimes we don't realize how many different platforms we're using or how many different platforms we make our clients use. And we know when it comes to operations and technology, the more streamlined it is, the better. So as I was thinking of like looking at your websites, the more clicks it takes for a customer to find the service they want and book you, actually the lower rate of conversion that you have. Like the less clicks, the better conversion rates there are. So one kind of quick tech test you can use in your operations is go onto your website like you're a client and count how many clicks it takes you to get from your homepage to your booking page. And if it's like more than 3, you got to figure out a way to change that. Like one click is like one of the best ways to get faster conversions. So thinking about streamlining systems within technology or someone hearing about you and being able to book your service really fast. So always thinking about like the easier I make it for my potential client, the better chance I have of booking someone. I know like I have a really low attention span and most Americans do. I think it's like 8 seconds. So sometimes like if I go to a page and then I have to click and click and then I get asked to fill out these things, I'm already like, ugh, and I like move on. And so we don't want that to happen. And so thinking about what does that tech look like and what do I need to invest in? And of course, you're going to have your current state and your future state. So you might find out like this is the platform I would love to use, but it's out of my budget right now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start saving for it. This is going to be in my strategy. And once I hit this, I'm going to invest in this platform or I'm going to invest in this technology. The equipment and tools. Christina's talked about using airbrush. So I'm assuming that with equipment that is involved in that, and you all have to use different equipment and tools for all of your industries and the specific services you're providing. So you would have a year where you're investing in equipment, and then I'm assuming you get so many years or usages out of that equipment, and then you have to replace it again. Or new technology comes out and that's, better. And so also be thinking about, okay, this is what I currently have for tools and equipment, but I know in 2026, I'm going to want to invest in something new. So thinking about too, what does your plan look like to be able to always be able to stay up to date with the most relevant tools and equipment that you need to stand out in your industry as well, and continue to provide the quality of services you want. And then processes and SOPs. Now, why are these important? Again, especially for like solo entrepreneurs, we carry so much mental load. So if you can get some of the processes out and written down and documented, it just helps kind of take that away. I know when I did events, I had like a process and a checklist. So I would always make sure like, okay, I got an event tonight. Do I have all of these things packed? Do I have this with me? So I could just make sure that I had that process down. I didn't have to think or try to remember. And then it allowed me to hire interns and then eventually employees to go and run those. And I would just hand them the processes and train them and make sure that they're following those. And so being able to have documentations that allow people to follow your processes are going to help you grow as well. So then when it comes to whether hiring a contract worker or potentially employee someday, you have that process that outlines the steps and expectations that you would have for the people that you want to work for you. And then that corresponds to like staff and personnel. A lot of times we see business owners at that point where like growth requires hiring someone. And we've probably all worked jobs before where we like go there and no one has anything written down and you're like, what do I do here? And you kind of like just have to figure it out and it's messy and not great. You don't want that for your business. And so that's why like starting to write down processes and SOPs and plans is really important. Also, I noted in some of the notes that I read before class tonight, some of you might think like in order to grow, you might have to get some capital, whether that's, in the form of a business loan or possibly looking for grants. A lot of times, in order to apply for those and be considered, you have to have these things documented. And so it's always just beneficial to kind of document your operations and in your processes. I understand there's a lot of like reasons why you wouldn't want to, or like when you're so busy working in the business versus on the business, like you're like, like I'll get to it, but try to carve out, a few minutes a week to just start to document some of these things. And then they're meant to kind of like, you can go back and process and improve them as well. And it just kind of helps create a clearer map of like where you want to be going in your business and how you do it. Also, if you're doing these things, you're also creating a business that you can sell someday. If your business is 100% like your talent and in your head, you're not creating a business that like someone could potentially buy from you someday. And that's another thing I want you to be thinking about, even if it's very long term. As a business, you're creating an asset that can be sold someday. And so thinking about the more documented, organized, like you have proof of a system and process that works, you have clients, you actually are creating an asset that you can package up and sell someday. You can't do that if you don't have documentations and a proven system that works and assets. And I would love for you all to be in a position when you want to retire where you can sell your business and make a profit. So those are kind of some of the reasons of why these things are important. So again, kind of between now and next week, work on these sections in your execution plan that we talked about. I'll be checking them between now and next week as well, and writing any notes or making some feedback and suggestions for you all. I know we're a little bit over time. So questions, discussions, thoughts, concerns. Basically, your kind of homework between now and next Tuesday is to work on the execution sections, make sure your pricing strategy is there. And yeah, just try to get those sections as organized as you can for what you're able to achieve between now and Tuesday. It is Tuesday, right? What day? Wait, Wednesday. I was like, I don't even know what day it is right now. So yes, so between now and next Wednesday.
What were you gonna do with our websites?
If
We
you
have-
drop them in the chat and which I see you did, Tina, I'll review them between now and next Wednesday and then just shoot you some feedback. So if I see things
Okay.
where I'm like, hey, I think you could like this could improve that, or if you change that, just to kind of get some like live time feedback. Um, this is something that I've done with a lot of businesses, is just kind of like looking at their brand and the customer experience from their website. I think of websites in today's digital age as the front door to the business. Like before going to most businesses, and I'm like, the research says I'm not alone in this. I wouldn't be surprised if you do this too. I go to someone's social and their website before I would ever like walk into their front door if they had one. And so our websites today are really the front door. And a lot of people don't have, brick and mortar businesses as well, but our website presence and our social presence actually holds more value today than like a physical presence. And so, yeah, I'll just take a look at your websites and just give you some of my recommendations and feedback. Any other questions that you have for me? I believe I'm your teacher again next week, and so I'll be able to kind of like spend more time in your live plan to give you direct feedback around what we talked about tonight as well. Um, and I'll have time to review your websites as well.
I'm kind of interested in how you decided to go from Love and Cupcakes to consultant.
So um so I have a very like left and right brain. Like I think how my team described me as like I'm business Emily and I'm goober Emily. I think that was like the words that they gave me. And so I I have this very like strategic and analytical mind, and I I graduated college like during the recession, like the '08 recession, and with this like degree in journalism and psychology. And um I did not actually enjoy the news industry that I was working with at the time. And so I ended up going into the nonprofit sector to do like marketing and development work. And as a kid, I wasn't like, I didn't even know what that meant, development work, which development work in nonprofit means fundraising, storytelling, grant writing. And I didn't even know like an occupation like that existed, but I was good at it. And like, there was so much parallel between what my degrees were in and what it takes to be good at those things that I grew really fast. I was with Boys and Girls Clubs of America. And so I just was like absorbing everything that they were giving me and kind of growing really fast in the organization. And then I was recruited by the University of Minnesota to do like grant writing and contracts and strategy. And so in doing what like my day job was, I was really missing that creative side. Like I was so steep now in like the strategy and execution of things that I didn't get to do storytelling or events or videos. And I just spent 4 years and like hundreds and thousands of dollars getting a degree and like learning how to use a camera and tell a story and work at a news station, and build trust and rapport with who I'm interviewing. And so, and then I do have like a really fast thinking brain. And like, as you've probably just noticed in these last 2 hours, like I think fast, sometimes I move non-linear and, or I'm like all over the board. And so I was bored at my day job, and I wanted a creative outlet. And so I had been thinking about like starting this creative events business and utilizing my photography and videography skill sets. And so when I started Love and Cupcakes, the goal was to have these creative events where people in community could come together to do something creative that wasn't like going to a bar or restaurant. It was like coming together to do something creative, something that you hadn't done since fifth grade art class, right? And so I was the first person in the industry in Minnesota to do like the wine and design type classes. So I saw that happening in other states that are a bit ahead of Minnesota and brought it to Minnesota. And then I started getting like, copycat businesses opening up. And so I think as a business owner, one of the things you need to do is see the trends. And I hit the trend and I rode the wave, and it was very successful 2 years. And then a lot of businesses were doing creative events, and photography and videography had already been a saturated market. So like there's a lot of those sort of people providing those services. And when I would be hosting my events, people would be like, "Oh, is this what you do full time?" And I wasn't. I was still working full time and then running the business on nights and weekends. And so I was like, "No, I'm like, I do this at the University of Minnesota and in strategy." And they would be like, "Oh, well, I'm a business owner. I sit on a board or I do this." And so I started to meet people, and they would ask me like, "Well, could I hire you as my consultant?" And at the time, I couldn't because I had a contract with the university doing that, and essentially, like, they owned that intellectual property. And so I knew that if I wanted to do Love and Cupcakes plus a consulting business and get to be creative and strategic, that I would have to leave the university. So I got to the point where I had enough clients like in my lineup that if they would book me, I would be able to replace my salary. So I got to that point where I had enough clients who were ready to sign on with me as their consultant that I then left the university. So I stayed in my day job until I basically could replace that salary with consulting. Um, and I still own both. They're still both in operations. And so I think too, like just also reached a point with Love and Cupcakes where I was no longer motivated by the day to day, and so I'm able to, like outsource that, or kind of be more selective. And so yeah, it kind of just feeds both areas of interest. And today I'm more interested in consulting and strategy than I am in events and creative work. But yeah, so that's kind of like how I transitioned into like doing consulting.
Thanks.
Yeah. And so like in all of you too, like I think I heard a few of you, you know, you're also gaining these skill sets. So adding like, you know, teaching components or consulting components um to the idea, like you don't need to start a new LLC or business to do that. That's just another service you can provide. So, and I worked with a lot of people, especially like in a trades, like, when I was working with entrepreneurs in Tanzania, there isn't the diversity of services and businesses there. And so when someone was looking to add revenue streams to their business, it was always teaching or consulting. Like, hey, I'm a seamstress in my village, and I know there's like other people who want to do this, so I'm gonna, also create like a sewing school. And so I think people who have skill sets to teach, when you add like a teaching component or a coaching consulting component, that's another way to add revenue. And I think sometimes too, when you reach a point or you've been doing something for a long time, sometimes you start to get bored with that. And so it's fun to teach and mentor and coach and guide. So I'm at the point where what I love doing is coaching other people, versus, like that's what like I get passionate about. And so know that you all
I,
have skill set too to do that.
can I ask you a question? Because that's actually so funny thing, haha, yeah, I just opened a salon, but I actually don't want to work. I want to like teach other people how to do it. And so I'm interested, like when you started doing your coaching, and maybe I can just like ask you on the side, like how did you start like creating, how did you start? I heard your story about like people just randomly coming to you and like seeking it, which is where a lot of clients are, and even other hairstylists are.
Mhm.
And I'm an instructor at St. Paul College as well, like a cosmetology instructor. So people know like by like
Mhm.
profession, I'm actually an instructor. Um, but I'm always like, again, my struggle point is pricing because I'm like, I mean, this is easy, guys. I'll charge you $200, but I'm like, how did you really start like doing it to where I'm hearing you say like you're able to completely leave your job? Because that sounds like love. Like I love the industry so much. I'm not a gatekeeper. I There's nothing in me that even wants to keep the process. Like if we could cookie cutter, everybody is successful. I mean, I'm not old. I'll be 30 in September, but like, I'm like, I've been doing this so long, like you can learn it. But
Mhm.
I'm just curious to see how did you start coming up with like what you, and I know we're way over the call, but I'm not doing anything. So I'm like,
Yeah, so I think just like any other service, you have to create a package and a process that works, right? And so as, you know, as I started to hear people be like, I need someone to teach me, or I need someone to facilitate me, or I need someone who knows these fundamental principles and can come in and teach me how to do it. And so I think what first happened was like random people being like, would you lead a strategic plan for my board? Or would you come help write this plan for me? Or would you write this grant for me? Or would you write a business plan for me? I started to kind of hear like what was the most common theme that people needed. And the most common theme that I was hearing in the ecosystem I was in was someone, people were looking for consultants to do strategic planning within their business or their board of directors. And so I created my process, taking from systems and things that I knew worked and kind of put it together, and then was able to kind of, you know, with my experience, know like, okay, if someone wants to conduct this, this is the time it's going to take. And therefore, this is the time it's going to take me. And this is what my hourly rate should be. And then, and then anyone who's new in any industry, you know, I kind of had my price point of where I knew I needed to be. And then the more clients I took on, then I would change my prices. And then I would add, you know, I kind of started to have a proven model that worked. And um, right now, because I'm also working with Women Venture, I'm currently at a point where I'm solely referral based. You cannot find a website for me. I, you know, and I'm only taking that word of mouth. And so like now I also just have this, um, I love live facilitation and consulting better than online because I feel like I can feel people's energy and can like see you and pull out things. And so kind of right now as a consultant, it is referral. So I'll have people be like, "Oh, you need Emily. She asks good questions. She's really fast. She can do this. She'll identify things." And so it, you know, it kind of started as like, I think this is what I want to do. I'm not going to leave anything behind and quit these things until I know I have a proven process that works. And so like, you know, it wasn't like I started my business and then like a week later I could quit my job. It was like figuring out these processes that worked, and then and kind of what having a package to sell. So at that time I did have a website. I did have like testimonies from people who I did work with. I had like this is what you can expect from my consulting services. And just like anything before it became a business, it was something people were coming to me and asking me about anyways, and it's something like I love doing. So I then chose to monetize it, and so that then also put a barrier between I no longer provided free advice. I no longer, you know, and so I think you also have to decide like, is this something where I want to provide mentorship? guidance, or do I want to monetize it? Is this a business that really could see myself loving? And you take the same business principles that you're using with your salon and you apply it to a consulting arm where here's my services, here's my rate, this is how you book me, this is what you can expect, this is what I'll deliver, this is what our sessions would look like. This is the goal. So I'm going to take you from the idea of being a salon owner to being a salon owner. And these are the proven processes that work. And this is what my rate is. This is what I can guarantee you I'll do. And so it's very
Gotcha.
similar in like any other type of service business.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time and sharing all that about yourself.
Yeah, I'm here for you guys, and I oversee the training team at Women Venture. So any questions that you have, if you email the training team and like have specific questions, either me or someone on my team will respond to it too. So, utilize Women Venture. We're here for you. Questions that you have, concerns that you have, just know that like you don't have to wait till our class session, or like we're here for you. Like we're along this journey with you.
Got it.
Awesome. Okay. Well, if you're anything like me, you start to get sleepy around 8:30. I'm old. But it's been really fun to get to know the three of you. I'm really excited to learn more about your business and, start diving more into kind of like that strategy of where you want to go, and how you want to spend your time, the money you want to make. So I think my biggest ask for you is spend time in Live Plan, ask questions, utilize the AI, contact the training at womenventure.org if you have questions. If any of you are thinking at some point down the road you want to like expand, diversify, and there's a chance you think you might want to or will be pursuing a business loan, and it might not be in the next year or 2 years, it might be in 5 years from now, we can set you up with some one-on-one business consulting as well, just to kind of understand what you would need to do in order to be someone who could receive a business loan or a line of credit if, kind of you're looking for expansion or change. I just want to make sure that you guys get access to the resources that you need, and that you're, getting the best support that we can provide.
Who would we email about that?
So if one, if like already, like, yeah, I would consider like at some point getting a business loan or a line of credit. Like if you know that, you can tell me and I'll just make sure to connect you with our consulting team.
Mm.
We have opportunities to provide like basically like pre-lending consultations where a consultant would just kind of walk you through some snapshot stuff. I think it's the best if you take an appointment like after graduating from Launched and Growing, because now you have a business plan and you'll get feedback from the panel that attends graduation, and you'll get feedback from our staff, right? But then like if you can book a consultation after graduation and they can kind of like look at your plan, poke some holes in it, and get you thinking about some other things. And then the biggest barrier I see is like when people graduate, they get a consultation and they have these plans. Oftentimes what happens is like no one's holding them accountable to actioning the plan, and then that's when shit starts to fall apart. And so also let's start thinking about like accountability. Who's going to hold you accountable once graduation happens and you still want to be growing and working on your business? Who's going to be your accountability buddy, right? And so be thinking about those two. And is there ways that Women Venture can help be your kind of accountability partner, as you know, it's not
Yeah.
like you're building the plan now and then you have to activate the plan, which is a very different motion and action. So we're in the building phase right now. You'll enter the activation, but how can we
Yeah.
continue to assist you and what do you need? So you can email training at, you can also, come to class and tell me next week as well. But anytime you like, think of the training team at Women Venture as like your liaison into like other departments if you need it.
Okay.
All right. Okay, you three have a great night.
Thank you.
Make sure to rest as well. It's a rocky world out there, and being a business owner is hard as, I won't swear because I'm being recorded. But just know, like, I see you, I feel you, and I'm here for you.
Thank you. Good
All
night.
right. Good night,
Thank you.
all.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.